I'm somewhere different now, so I was too lazy to set it up on my bed, so I was like, I'll just bring my cupboard down. The dog is still here, but she's asleep because she's lazy. What's up, are you? Hello people of the interwebs, Sarah here and welcome to my channel. As some of you might have seen, I've just posted a review for the first episode of the new season of Doctor Who, and I finally got around to seeing part 2 of that, and this is my review for that one. If you haven't seen part 1 and my thoughts on that, I'd recommend seeing that video first because I have a few theories that completely just weren't things. So if you want to see that first, I'd check that video out and then come back to this one. Okay, like before, I have all my notes on my phone because I was writing them as I was watching. So if you see me looking down, it's to look at my notes. Okay, so we literally start this one where we left it. The Doctor is alone on this alien planet with these cool like electricity stuff, and the gang is all stuck on a plane about to die because the master of all people have just abandoned them there because he took the Doctor. We got this, everyone is all together. Right, so this episode starts off running fully and it doesn't stop running ever. There is not a lull in this episode whatsoever. If I thought the first episode was jam-packed, this one was way more Doctor Who-y. I will explain what I mean by that. The first episode was very more spy themed, they're doing all this espionage stuff. This one felt more like a Doctor Who episode with going through time and space and all these like time loopholes and all this stuff. It was really, really interesting and oh, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So we'll start off with the gang on the plane, then I'll go back to the Doctor because I feel like the Doctor is more to unravel and entangle. So the gang are on a plane and what happens is that they're all trying to obviously think like the Doctor. Although they're having a bit of panic. Now Ryan seems to notice his name on the underside, like you know where the windows are, he finds his name there. So clearly the Doctor has thought ahead and she knows about this and she's done something to solve it. And she actually leaves him blueprints to how to fly the plane via his phone. Well, this does have a little, it's almost like a wee Easter egg reference to the Angels episode. You know, the one where it was David Tennant, the Doctor was talking to Sally, though his was a pre-recorded message and she was talking back and forth. That kind of happened and I really appreciated the Easter egg. Graham's obviously talking to the Doctor who's on a screen, who's trying to explain what to do. All in all, it was a very high intense scene, but the gang are safe, they're on British soil, they're in Essex. And they are trying to think like the Doctor, and because obviously they've still got all this spy stuff, Ryan has got hacked into David's planner, so they have a plan of action. Now we know the gang is safe. I'm going to go to the Doctor and all her stuff up to the point where the Master comes back. First off, I need a cup of tea. Oh, that was a lot of talking. So the Doctor is on this alien planet and she's obviously doing what any sane person would do, and she's talking to herself to prove to herself that she's not dead. That's what she does. But while she's talking to herself, she hears someone talk back. And this would be Ada. Double checking it is Ada. Yes, it's Ada. So she runs towards this girl and she finds her in a almost Victorian-like dress. Though this girl Ada doesn't seem surprised about where she is or the white ghostish alien. She seems almost like she knows exactly what it is, which is a bit questioning. And she kind of explains to the Doctor this happens often and this guardian of hers brings her back, and this might be the only way the Doctor gets off the planet, which is a bit of a foolish notion, but the Doctor takes her hand and they actually arrive in, I'm going to check the year, the 1804. So what we find out when the Doctor's on this planet is the actual aliens themselves are gateways, because what they've managed to do is they've portaled the Doctor and also Yaz across the universe to their tiny little planet. So these things are gateways to another way to like transport, which is kind of cool. That's very cool. So obviously the Doctor's off this planet. what we find out is the Master's house, the little house that we were seeing in the first one, is actually his TARDIS, which is so cool. It doesn't have the whole bigger on the inside effect, but it has this kind of cool old school red vibe, very unlike Jodie's TARDIS. It's I don't know, it's just a lot more cluttered and it felt more villainous, I guess is the right word. This is a bit off the note, but something I noticed towards the end of the episode was the Doctor's TARDIS actually changes colour to reflect her feelings, and I really appreciate the set design and the lighting design in that. Like the blues, like the orange tones when she thinks she's fine and hopeful, and then it goes to the blue tones towards the end, which will explain what's going on then as well. But that was just a small notion I noted. So if that's the kind of thing they're doing, the reds and stuff within the Master's TARDIS makes sense, because he's a man full of anger and rage and chaos, and a lot of the time those colours, like reds and deep colours like that, are normally associated with that. So that was just a small thing that I noticed and I appreciated. So back to the Master and his TARDIS. So we find out that obviously the Master had something to do with David not being on the plane. So David, we clearly now find that the Master is the mastermind, as we all kind of sussed out in the first one during his reveal. But David obviously is a man used to being in charge. He doesn't appreciate getting told what to do. But they are discussing what was going on, because obviously he got told the Master's plan was going to be foolproof. It's clearly not. He gets a notification on his phone telling him his plane's landed, and then the Master gets a notification saying the Doctor is alive. Now I really appreciate the acting in this, because the Master has got so many like frenzied movements. He's bashing his head against his console, and he is just the epitome of anger and chaos, and he gives me those Joker vibes I talked about in my first video. And it's just one of those, I'm like, I really hope they bring back this Master again. This can't be the end of what we see. After what we've been given a glimpse of in this episode, I want so much more Master, which sounds so strange. But they need to think of a really clever way, almost Moriarty kind of way back into the series, because it's the Master. It's clearly he's gonna come back. We got left some vital clues as to why, but it was just in this moment I kind of was like, you are someone who likes to be in control but can't be in control, and I don't know, it just has me wanting more, itching for more to learn about this version of the Master. So the two villains, antagonists, split up. David in charge of the trio, and obviously the Master and the Doctor. Okay, so the Doctor seems to arrive in this not World's Fair, that's the wrong word, it's some sort of like invention showing offy hall thing. We have bombs made of like cogs and stuff, very steampunky. We have a steam pistol, and then obviously we have the magic conjuring women. I like the joke. I didn't appreciate the whole man thing. As I said, I think we've moved past the fact that we need to keep assuming that she is a woman. We can see that. We need the Doctor to be the Doctor. We don't need to care. I don't care about the fact that he's a man or a woman. The Doctor is the Doctor. Plain simple, good as that. If you can be Missy without Missy being all, I'm a girl now, we can do the Doctor that way as well. Done. Cool. Rant over. The Master arrives at this, and he starts shrinking people. This Master is not scared to kill people, and I think that makes him a lot scarier, but in like a really fascinating way. Like Missy was very manipulative, but this Master is a whole level of scary. Like he definitely is unhinged, and he was almost having a hissy fit that the Doctors managed to outwit him. But now we have a Doctor trapped in the 1800s, no TARDIS, trying to find a way home. She ends up with Ada. Ada obviously is so good. She not protects the Doctor. She saves the Doctor from the Master, who is making her kneel down and call him the Master, and just the dynamic of the two. I'm just in love with the Master Doctor dynamic at the moment. But yeah, Ada saves the Doctor, and then they go back to her house or someone's house, who is a smart person. I didn't note down his name. But we find out now that he gets given a... Sorry. So we're back at Ada's, and we find out the man she's with has been given a sculpture by a man, who's kind of like a metal sculpture in a glass box. It featured a lot in the first episode in David's office. And this is the first of us clicking onto this might be very important. We don't know why. Because of this, the Doctor starts making connections about who Ada is and what might be going on. We find out later that Ada is actually the first person to do with computers who starts working things out. And it's all part of this bigger picture. But she has been getting sent to this other world via the Gateway ghost people since she was 13. And then this is where the Doctor makes the connection. It's not parallel worlds, which I thought it was. It's actually multiple time periods that these creatures are actually like setting themselves out at. So this way they can monitor, in this case what they're doing is they're monitoring the progression of computers throughout the world. So the Doctor gets the hint that the only way she can get home is if she can program one of these ghost gateways to actually take her back to the 21st century. Of course this doesn't go to plan, because Ada grabs onto the Doctor's hand last minute and they fall into the 1900s in Paris, France during the war. And then we'll come back to that. Okay, so Graham, Yaz and Ryan have now become London's most wanted. David obviously has high links in high places, not even London, Liverpool's most wanted, sorry. He has managed to get them being the number one most wanted people in England. So the only way they can escape is to first off step on their phones, break their phones, and then they have to hide in a development area. During this time they actually have a bit of a discussion about who the Doctor is, and it's kind of this moment where we realise they don't know much about the Doctor. The Doctor hasn't really opened up to them, and this realisation of the Master once knew the Doctor as a man. They kind of always they seem to have brushed off the fact that she keeps talking about being used to being a man. But we audience know that's true, because that's what happens in regeneration. But these characters don't know anything about her, and that's kind of their realisation. They've told the Doctor all about their lives and about them, but what do they know about her? And I think it was a realisation they needed to get to progress more in their friendship with the Doctor. And I think that'd be very interesting to see what they will bring to the table come some of the storylines they're hinting towards the end. I'm just interested to see what they're weaving in at the moment. And then all that goes to hell when the more white ghosty things come for them in the development area, which is kind of petrifying until they realise that they still have the gadgets that they took from Stephen Fry at the very beginning of episode 1, which include laser shoes and not robot, some kind of cufflinks that shoot stuff. But this is just, it's one of those moments where you think it's going to be really intense and dangerous, and then all of a sudden you've got Bradley Walsh doing a tap dance and lasers are coming out of his shoes, and it's just so Doctor Who that is just amazing, and I absolutely loved it, and it was just needed. And I love the fact he has laser shoes and he's tap dancing to get away with them. So that was a great high point in the episode, so well done Doctor Who for that. So then after the guys have escaped, kind of. This is before the tap dancing Graham, I think. Let me double check. No, Graham comes first. Then we kind of find out part of what's going on with David. We see him walking into this large warehouse and there's someone strapped to a a chair. And we find out that this is his mother. So I think all this boils down to the fact he has mummy issues, because all he wants is his mum to say well done. But this clearly isn't enough. So he lets these alien things actually kill his mother, which is horrible and a very cliche villain thing, like watch me kill someone. A bit sad for his mum, obviously, but come on. So the Doctor and Ada don't actually end up in the 21st century as the Doctor was planning. They actually end up in Paris during the Second World War. I think it's second or the First World War. Second. Definitely second. I can't remember. But they end up in Paris during a war, and they actually get found by a woman called Nora. Nora? She is the first woman to go behind the scenes of the war to radio signals out. Of course, there was a raid happened during this time, and we see the Master in Nazi uniform, and it's stated multiple times throughout the episode, that it's a bit on the nose, and the Doctor finds it's a bit on the nose, so I'm not going to bother adding my 2 cents to that, because it is a bit on the nose that the Doctor's evil, he's wearing a Nazi uniform, blah 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 blah. But this whole sequence was very scary, because obviously these raids happened and they were vicious. What they actually did was they shut up the floor. This is when the Doctor actually notices the radio equipment, the British radio equipment, and she puts two and two together to figure out who the women are and why these monster things seems to be aligning themselves with these specific people of history. So she starts devising a plan using the females around her and their specific skill sets. She starts on the radio tapping out a sequence that we're all very, very aware of when it comes to the Doctor and the Master. The da-da-da-da, 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 which she actually states is the rhythm of two hearts, which makes so much sense. The minute she started doing that on the radio, that's all I could think about. Was like, it's the drums, because remember when we first heard it, it was like, oh, the beat of the drums, the da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. You don't realise it, but then the fact she's saying the beating of two hearts, of course, it makes so much sense. And then it introduces us to this, I don't know if it's new, but it's new to me. Time Lords can communicate via their minds now. I mean, it's interesting, but it's the first I've seen of it, and I don't know what I think. But the Doctor and the Master arrange a meeting point, which of course is the top of the Eiffel Tower. So obviously they meet at the top of the tower, and the Doctor finally lets the Master have the big villain monologue that every villain has. So we start finding out that these aliens, the glowy monster things, have actually been there for ages. They're sleeper agents. They're kind of what he described it as, the Russian sleeper agents, but they're throughout the entire galaxy, the entire universe, and he saw the opportunity to use them to his advantage. He was going to use them and use David, and then they'll get all the backlash and he will get the reward. That's kind of how he was doing it. His big plan was to take over the Earth, practically. We don't know the specifics yet, but David goes into it towards the end. So Yaz is on the phone to her parents, which we know is a bad thing, because obviously if we got the whole of Britain looking for them, they're going to locate her on the phone. But we figure out this is part of their plan. So when agents finally arrive, what happens is they use Graham and his dancing feet to actually disarm them, and then they decide to take over the car, radio and guns, so then they can't actually be followed in theory because they're using someone else's stuff. However, obviously the guys have got word back to David, so when they arrive at the big warehouse where David's mum is, because that's where the car was tracking them to go, There's no one there, and they have been left a message by David. They find obviously David's mum, and I will tell you right now, the minute he was like, I'll leave you with my mother, I was like, she's gonna turn into a monster of some kind. She didn't, but that's the kind of thing I could see like turning around and they'd have to fight some sort of monster, because that's what I was preparing for. So they get this message of him while he's about to go into a lecture. But before I go into that, I'll go back into the doctor. So while the doctor's talking to the master, we've actually left the two girls on their own with the phone. We see that they have sent out some sort of code, but we don't know what, and then they arrive at an unknown destination and phone the phone, though they don't know what it's for. We find out later what this is for, but it's kind of nice. It's going to sound so strange, but it's so nice seeing Doctor Who go into the past and seeing the Doctor worry about things she's changing, and just seeing the period outfits and skipping time periods, and it's all very Doctor Who to me, and I love it. What we find out is the Doctor has managed to send out a message that has been decoded by the Germans, saying that the Master has been a double agent giving the British Nazi information. So the Nazis are on their way up to grab him, and what she's also done is just before she leaves, he was using some sort of cloaking device to make him look what the enemy want them to look, because obviously he isn't very German. So what was I saying? Yeah, so the Doctor's disabled his like appearance modulator thingy, and she escapes. She finds the women by the Master's house, which he hasn't even bothered to disguise, aka his TARDIS, and she explains to the women that in order for her to go home she has to use this device, and this is also when she clicks kind of what his plan is, and to do with the whole, they have situated one of these aliens with every single significant person to do with computer technology in the world. Now this is where we get to the big reveal with what the plan is. And this happens at David's seminar. So what he has a big monologue, because all villains do, but what he explains in it is that we have now created technology that outsmarts humanity. And the biggest hard drives in the world are actually humans themselves. So what they have planned on doing is really emptying out human beings to use them as hard drives. There'll be some people who are spared to like look over the human race and help the human race, but that's their big plan, is to literally erase what humans are, essentially to use them as computer hard drives, which is kind of scary, because he kind of explained it in a way like, we have all accepted like the terms and conditions, the data, we have let people in, and we've let people into our lives via technology, and we all are so codependent to technology that this is really our own downfall, which is a very scary when he was going on the monologue, and I was like, oh gosh, we all have, haven't we now? So that was a bit of a real life scary moment. We go back to the warehouse where hundreds upon millions of these white ghosty things appear, and then they get absorbed into the silhouette cube. So then the Master appears, showing that he's alive, and he has spent all of his life in prisons trying to escape, just in time to see humanity end. So people start getting attached to their devices and start getting erased, I guess is the best word, and then all of a sudden the ghost things come back, and the machine, which is the wee figurehead, switches off, and we all figure out this is the Doctor. Okay, the ending was a bit wrapped up really quickly for me in a easy sort of way. It kind of built up to this massive climax for no reason, but we can't win all battles. We find out that she went back to the past and installed a kind of failsafe switch, so if all these aliens went into the thing it would automatically shut down. And then she also installed a way so they'd all get sent back to their planet. The Master actually gets sent back with them, because she plays a recording of him saying that he was going to let these aliens and this David guy take the fall for the big plan. So then the aliens take it back with them and he is abandoned at the other side of the universe. But I don't think this is the end of the Master. I don't think it is at all. And then obviously she goes back and they have a massive montage of her and Eva and Nora making these plane plans so the gang could be saved from the plane, which was just a little bit of a light relief after everything that had happened that episode. The thing that I felt was really saddening was watching her drop the women back off and having to erase herself from their minds. I mean, I think this is the first time I've seen a doctor genuinely do this, knowing the impact they would have in history and knowing that they can't know the information they know. And it was really, really nice to see a doctor finally take that into consideration. It was just nice to see, and it was really bittersweet. It was really bittersweet. And then we get her back to her TARDIS and she seems to be mulling over something which I think is a long-term plot thread about going back home. Obviously the gang have said that she hasn't spoken about her home, she hasn't gone home for a long time, so she finally goes to Gallifrey and Gallifrey is destroyed, absolutely bombed to bits. So this is when I'm talking about the lighting. Before she went to Gallifrey, the lighting was all purple, not purple, oranges and hopeful and happiness. And when she comes back and she's mulling over what happened, it's all blues. And like, it's sadness, and it was kind of shown in the atmosphere, and it was just one of those small things that I really appreciated. And then obviously she gets some sort of video message from the Master who kind of says to her that he was the one who did it because he learnt the truth of the Time Lords and what they really are. And I think this season is going to be us learning more lore about the Time Lords and the true history, and there's something that they have all been lied to, and it's trying to figure out what this is, because obviously whatever it is that the Master found out, because he refuses to tell us because that'd be too easy, whatever he's found out is obviously that big that caused him to actually destroy his own planet. I know the man is covered in chaos and he is just a ball of anger, but Gallifrey was his home and one place where he did have happy memories, so something has managed to make that seem so fake and false that he has to destroy it because the memories of happiness he has is so fake. And I'm really interested to see what that lie that they have been told is, and I know it will be developed as the season goes on, so it's something I'm very interested about. And finally, the Doctor actually tells the companions who she is in a way, and I think it's nice, as I said, it shows that the more she gives them information, the more we'll kind of see how they all learn from each other. And I want to see how this progresses in the future. Anyway, those were my thoughts on this episode. It was definitely a lot more Doctor Who-y than the first episode, and it was a lot more go 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 than the first episode, and I really appreciated that. If you agree with any of my thoughts, please tell me in the comments below. Please subscribe to my channel for any more reviews for Doctor Who or any more TV shows or books, and I will see you soon. Bye! Mwah!